Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. And I am thrilled to have one of my dearest friends, Jane Carter, back on the podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, she is no stranger to you, but Jane, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gordon. I'm so glad to be back. It's so great to see you.
Yes, and Jane and I have been commiserating about how we need to hang out more often. But yeah, and so Jane, tell folks a little more about yourself for those that might not know about you and how you've landed where you are.
Oh gosh, where to begin? I'll try to keep it short. I think I'm a rambler.
So
All right. Well, I've been a therapist for 23 years, but I left my job 10 years ago to go into private practice and started doing business coaching about a year after that. So I've been a business coach for 9 years. And I love it. I love it so much. I love talking about it. I love meeting other business coaches and private practice coaches. I love coaching people. It is just so much fun. And one of my core values in my work is that I really believe this process should be fun in addition to
mhm.
all the challenges and the hard parts and all of that. And I also believe that your business is here to grow you. So that's the lens through which I do this coaching work. A little more about me as a person. I'm an outdoors woman. I also love to get dressed up. So I'm a former debutante who loves to go, I love to travel. I love good food and good drink and good coffee. And I have the sweetest dog in the world and the greatest friends in the world. So I'm a pretty happy
Yeah,
person.
yeah, and I would say that I've met, a lot of Jane's friends, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and her dog is really good too. She's pretty special, so, yeah, so yeah, so well, I know, Jane, you and I had, just kinda talked a little bit before we started recording, and, we were just talking about, things that we've kinda learned or just kinda realized or, as I like to say, learn the hard way sometimes, but things
Yeah.
that we've learned in the years that we've been in practice and doing this work. And you and I graduated very close to the same time from graduate school, at least. And
Yeah.
yeah, so tell what's been on your mind around all of that?
Oh wow. I I jotted down some thoughts and there's so many, but I'll start with a really obvious one. Though I think it's easy, especially when people are thinking about marketing and doing the right things online and all of that. I think people can lose sight of relationships are everything. They really are.
Hmm.
Relationships are everything.
Right.
Even as someone who's built somewhat of an online presence, and even as I help people with that side of things, it really comes back to forming good relationships with others in the space as we my coaching friend relationships, people that I think in another time and place or maybe in different industries, people would call the competition. Like, no.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're all each other's biggest supporters and have
Hmm.
made the greatest connections through one another, as well as just like even when I was building my therapy practice and I was so scared when I left my job. And what was really cool was that it was the relationships I had built 10 years before that when I was just trying to find a counseling job, any job, right? But I was just networking around town in Asheville. It was those relationships that ended up filling my practice, when I would
Hmm.
reach out and they're like, remember you, and I'd put up with a lot of them, even casual relationships. So again, there are all these little tricks and strategies and the latest thing, but ultimately it truly does come down to
Right.
valuing people and nurturing those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Every now and then with the few clients I do see, counseling clients that I see now, I know the topic of, especially we get younger folks and they're trying to find a job and they're, you know, stressing out over, you know, all of those kinds of things. And, you know, it really does come down to, I think, the relationships and the people that you know, I
Mhm.
think about all the jobs that I've had, and I can only maybe count maybe 1 or 2 that I got just by filling out an application, but all the
Mhm.
others I got because I knew somebody or at least knew somebody that knew somebody,
Wow.
and just made that connection and those introductions.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump on that. I have 2 things around that. One, just recently, a colleague encouraged me to just look at my data. Like, where are my clients coming from, right?
Mhm,
I'm touchy-feely. I don't check my numbers very
mhm,
often. And I kinda did a breakdown, and I was like, "Oh, so, yeah, 50% have found me, through online or email or, Instagram or whatever, but a full 50% of my clients have just come through personal referrals." Which
mhm,
that's huge. Oh, so, okay, just being out there and being a friend and
mhm,
connection and being generous in that way is so important. But I'll also back way up when I first moved to town and had my, shiny new counseling degree and no outside experience, and all the jobs said, "Oh, you've got to have 2 years of experience," and everyone was like, "Oh, Asheville, it's so you can't throw a therapist without hitting a yoga instructor," there's
mhm.
in town,
Oh,
you'll
yeah,
never find a
yeah.
job. And I finally I took a minimum wage job at the Biltmore Estate selling tickets to their Christmas events. And I was so bummed out, and it was actually my grad school advisor who said, "Just go to the town where you wanna live and just start meeting people." And
Mhm,
first 2 people I met in that job were the people who ended up making connections that led to my college counseling jobs, which were, like,
mhm.
prime jobs. They were wonderful, but
Yes.
I was just being me and talking about counseling and how excited I was to get into that
Mhm.
world, and they said, "Oh, well, let me introduce you around at the college where I work." And that
Right.
ended up eventually parlaying into dream job. So,
Yeah.
just talking to everyone, just getting
Yeah.
even if an introvert,
Yeah.
just forming connection is so
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think that's so true, and I think that's what's gotten me in my practice to where I am today is because I've been active in my community and people know me, just know me, and they know what
Yeah.
I do. And then things come up where, oh, I've got so and so's daughter is looking for somebody or so and so's son or, whatever. And that's how I get a lot of the referrals. And I think the people in my practice too do much of the same. So I mean
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
really yeah. So
And I'll that I'm gonna segue from that actually into the next big kind of lesson I've learned over the years,
mhm,
which is because as we're talking, I'm thinking, oh gosh, but what about the introverts or the shy people or the people who are listening and going, but I'm not a people person, except in the couch.
mhm,
And the other thing that has been huge is just learning to truly like be unapologetically you, like lean into your you-ness. And it's still possible to make connections without being this socialite or without being a super extroverted person.
mhm.
And, I'm an extroverted introvert, so I can work a room if I need to, but
All
the
right.
longest
Yeah.
time, I mean, the biggest, I still really hold the standard. Like, if I go to a networking event and I talk to one new person, that's success. I'm like, "Okay, I
Mhm,
talked to one person. That's one
mhm,
person that I've asked them questions. I've practiced my social skills. I've, been present with them. But you don't have to turn into a different person. The more you are and the less kind of trying to please everyone you are,
mhm,
the more successful you're going to be because they know, okay, this is a unique person and this is who's
mhm.
work well with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your work, maybe some folks would be interested in knowing kind of this story. And you made kind of a transition from being kind of your typical mental health counselor to doing coaching. And what was
Yeah.
behind all of that for you?
Mm. Well, Because I had really good coaching and it was impacting my life and impacting my it was impacting my business. It was actually impacting how I was counseling people because as you and I both know, there are actually a lot of overlaps. Like running a business and learning how to run a business, but in learning how to do the mindset side of it and be confident as a business owner, there's so many parallels to the personal growth
Hmm.
that happens in counseling. So I
Right.
keep hearing myself, quoting my coach to my therapy client, and it was just really exciting to me. And I, I wanted to do that. Oh, ooh, I also love to learn, and I was
Hmm.
just here to learn more about this new profession and this new way of thinking about business. And so I just ate it up. So I was like, well, if I get paid to do it, it's just I'm getting paid to do the thing I love, which is to learn
Yeah.
more. And it's just a different I mean, it's funny, I call business coaching stealth therapy.
Hmm.
And still it's just a different way to get uh, to heal people. I mean, when you're
Hmm.
running a business, all your stuff comes up, all your emotional stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
fears, your insecurities, sometimes really old, deep stuff. And your
Hmm.
business is just one more arena to work through those things and do it differently, right?
Hmm.
Take risks if you're someone who's been really fear-based, right? That kind of thing. So yeah, I just found it so intriguing. So I
Yeah.
don't not
Mm.
in great I made a first pancake and to learn get through that to like figure out what actual pancakes I should be making with my
Hmm.
next iteration of coaching. But
Hmm.
I just kind of dove into it because it was
Yeah.
so exciting and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of us that are doing kind of coaching and consulting and that sort of thing is that it's really, at least for me, exciting to see other people grow with things and just really for having those light bulb moments, aha moments, that we can, it's very similar to in therapy, but particularly with our coaching and that sort of thing. And I know one of the things that's a big thing for you, Jane, as it is for me, is just helping people with their mindset
Uh,
around it all. You want to say more about that?
yeah, and actually, well, I was gonna say before I say more about that, but actually this is so in line with that. You and I have known each other a long time now.
Hmm.
And I think you and I have both had to work through our own mindset stuff as we've moved, grown in this field and this fairly new profession of coaching, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's what's cool is that I can reflect back to you. I've seen you grow in confidence in this space, and I think
Hmm.
you've probably seen the same from me. And it's
Right.
cool to be able to know people for a long time who can say, "Oh yeah, you really you're in your zone. You're in your zone."
Hmm.
Yes, it's really cool to see that happening. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really
Well,
excited for you.
yeah.
For
Yeah. Well,
so
thanks for
sweet.
kind
Yeah.
to say that. Yeah. The same. Yeah.
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 But mindset-wise, I mean, I think the most basic way to think about it is that, it's not just doing the strategies and the tasks and the recipes. It's thinking about who you want to be as you're doing that, but who you wanna be on the other side of that intention, right? Who are you
Hmm.
becoming in the process? And again, all of your stuff, there's no hiding from it when you're running a business. I mean, your fear is gonna come up. That's okay, that's normal. Your
Hmm.
perfectionism, your
Hmm.
tendency to either hide or to, like, blow through things as fast as possible with as much boldness as possible without stopping to listen and learn, right? Like, your
Right.
your life is always showing you where you're out of balance, and your business is always showing you where you're out of balance, only it'll just show up in a real businessy way.
Yeah. Right.
So once you know where you're out of balance, and for a lot of people, what they realize is, "Man, I beat the crap out of myself all the time. I really don't
Hmm.
like myself." And that'll
Hmm.
show in your business. And so a lot of what I'm doing as a coach is helping people be kinder to themselves. And and learn how to really like themselves so that they can show up in a bold
Hmm.
way in their business
Right.
and,
Right.
make money and have more time and all the fun stuff, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think, yeah, in my own experience, one of the things that I would tend to beat myself up over is, I have a lot of knowledge about how to do the business stuff.
Right.
And then true confession here, I don't always do that myself. And,
I'm so shocked.
yeah, yeah. So,
So
yeah,
sarcasm in my voice.
yeah, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I can
yeah,
relate to that completely, Gordon.
right, right. And so and an example of that is here lately. I mean, I'll share this. One of the things that in my own story, and James familiar with my story, and people that have been listening to the podcast, going through my wife's terminal illness this past year, and then her death, and that sort of thing. I put a lot of stuff to the side, which I needed to, and being able to give myself a little bit of grace around that, or a lot of grace around that. But I had let some of my systems and processes just really get sloppy and fall to
Mhm.
the wayside. And then I go start it when I'm getting back into, as I call it, the new normal. I start
Mhm.
looking at things like, people always hear from me, look at your numbers, know your numbers. That's a theme with all of us that do consulting. You got to pull back the veil and
Yeah.
pay attention to those things and not be afraid of it. And so I did that, and I'm thinking, holy crap, what has happened here with my practice? I've got all these money leaks that I was
Mhm.
aware of. And so, yeah. And so it's, yeah, you want to say some things about that, about take the courage it takes to really kind of look at the stuff that we're not necessarily proud of?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're really summing it up. It takes first of all, it does take a lot of courage, and self-compassion is essential.
Hmm.
Essential. And
Hmm.
I don't just say that because 'cause I'm this really nice, touchy-feely person. If we're not gonna be self-compassionate, then we're just gonna keep avoiding it more, and
Hmm.
becomes a shame spiral, right? So,
Hmm.
when I talk about self-compassion and fun, I'm like, "No, no, no, like, these are essential elements so that we can look at
Hmm.
our numbers that maybe we've neglected or, whatever the thing is that you might be putting off or feeling like you should be doing, and be able to look at it with more curiosity than judgment, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I would guess, Gordon, if you really look at that with curiosity and non-judgment, where you would probably go and where you probably have gone, I hope, is, oh, well, I was going through this incredible life transition. I was doing
Mhm,
the work of transitioning someone out of this life who I've loved for so
mhm,
long.
yeah,
And I mean, that deserves your focus and that deserves your A plus effort. And when we're doing something that we want to do, be A plus at this, it's okay
mhm,
that there are going to be times we're going to do B minus or C minus work on those other things.
yeah, yeah,
If you hadn't brought your full self to that transition into even into your grief process, right?
mm,
You wouldn't be like, but I'm so excited that all my numbers are in pristine order
yeah,
here. Like
yeah,
I, I mean, I think the big lesson is it can't do it all perfectly. You
mhm,
choose what you're going to be A plus at any different moment and what you're going to do be C minus at. I may
mhm,
get all my ducks in a row and be getting my emails out regularly and have the best mastermind launch ever, but I'm gonna be eating hot dogs during lunch
mhm,
week and pizza.
yeah, yeah,
My house is gonna be a mess, and yeah. So,
yeah,
does that make sense?
yeah, 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 I think we do a lot of kinda going back to what you said earlier, do a lot of self-shaming about things that maybe we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves about.
Yeah. Oh gosh, and therapists especially, we love to be hard on ourselves, and we love
Mhm,
to suffer.
yeah,
That's a little. I know I'm being glib, but so many of us. that was our role in the family, was to sort of be the sponge of all the emotion and all of the chaos and to be the steady one. And so often there isn't a lot of room for being super playful and experimental and take risks and be messy.
Hmm.
So again, your business will kind of require that of you.
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna,
Right.
as we're all as we become therapists and we monetize our pain,
Yeah. Right.
it's like we're
Yeah.
really good at being there for people and just and being able to hold space for for them and for their pain and for their growth and their struggle, which is such a gift. It's so great to be able to give that, right?
You're right.
But we've got to learn how to do the self-compassion side, the playful experimental mind side, and the self-compassion.
Hmm.
And like I'll
Hmm.
with self-compassion thing, because another thing I've learned is there will be problems. I guarantee you, you will ugly cry in business for yourself. You will have
Hmm.
moments where you're just like, forget it. I'm going to go, work at Chipotle. I don't care. I'm done. And I'll have, like with clients, I'll have a process. We need a process for when you're in the pit and how do you kind of come back into yourself. And then how do you come back into your business and deal with those problems? Gonna
Hmm.
come because as someone once said, like the quote, maybe it was Seth Godin, he said, business is problems. It's problems,
Hmm.
problems and learning to work through them. But it's still fun and rewarding. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. And I think being able to accept just the flux of change or just things that are always things are already, I guess that's the correct word. Things are always in flux. I mean, there's just a
Always.
constant change and being able to just accept that and I interviewed a person in previous episode. Her name was Amy Dover. I think that's got she's one of our mutual friend Whitney Owens is a consultant with what she's another consultant with Rise
Yeah.
Practice. But I remember we were talking about life balance, and she
Hmm.
says that's really not a good way to think about it. She says it's she put it in terms of life rhythms. And I
Mm,
like that. I like
great.
that that way of
Yeah,
putting things. Yeah.
that's great. It's more of a
Yeah.
dance.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because because balance implies that it's going to be like
Yeah.
your checkbook balances, kind
Right,
of
right,
thing or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right,
But
right. That it's possible to always have it balanced. I love that. I think, if we're going to get into the myth, one is, there's no such thing as complete life balance. So
hmm.
it's always a dance, right? There's no such thing as passive income. I'm sorry. There's no such thing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And many people have learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
But that's okay because again, once you know that, you can know, okay, well, so maybe I can learn, whether that's through coaching or doing my own research, I can learn how to just be more strategic, have it a,
Hmm.
you know, more passive, less of a slog,
Yeah.
but yeah, there are a lot of business myths out there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So what are some other things that you've had on your mind, just things that you've kind of learned or
yeah,
um that sort of thing?
I mean, oh, I wish I had all the time in the world to list. I've had so much fun learning all kinds of different skill, right? I've loved learning to write better emails and yeah, help people design strategies for their practice and go through those money conversations with their clients and all of that. There are all these specifics that if we had more time, I'd get into. But if we're really, again, looking at the bigger picture, let's see, I'm gonna look at my notes because I jotted. Okay, this is in line with be unapologetically you, but really own your awesome. Like, don't be afraid to be a leader, a guide, a superstar, a wizard, like to have a bit of a scene of, wow, this person really knows their stuff. I mean, also have the skills to back it up.
Hmm.
So what
Sure.
I mean, what I'm getting at, the this is gonna sound negative, but what I've learned being in the space, in the coaching space, in the online world, that kind of thing, there are a lot of kind of superstars, people that were like, man, they're killing it. That's amazing. And I'm friends with a lot of them. And I know a lot
Mhm.
personally, like I've seen their businesses grow and it's been really exciting. And they are human beings. They are
Yeah.
normal human beings who struggle, who sometimes do get way out of balance and make big mistakes or have big personal challenges because they've been working so hard on the business and vice versa. They are human beings. It's funny. I feel less intimidated by like real, like celebrities, because I know all these business famous people. And I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
they're real. So if I meet Steve Martin, like he's a real person too.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But the flip side of that coin is a lot of people, probably people who are listening, who think of themselves as, well, I'm just a therapist or, I'm just a normal person. I'm just me. I'm no big
Mhm.
deal. You are so much more awesome and so much more of a superstar than you may even realize.
Right.
And I'm really, especially with helpers and therapist types, I'm really not worried about them becoming conceited, narcissistic people by just admitting, wow, I'm really damn good at this. Like,
Mhm.
wow, I do great work. I'm kind of a badass. What I'm
Mhm.
doing is really incredible, and I should talk about it more and let more people. I'm going to shine my light more.
Right.
At risk of doing that, look at me thing. I'm going to shine my light more so that more people can find me and get the help they need.
Right.
I get so frustrated when I see people underestimate themselves because they don't want to be that conceited person. I'm like, no, 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 but you're not going to become that person. But you do need to shine your light and just know how awesome you are.
Right. Right. And that's a whole that whole topic of imposter syndrome. I think a lot of times some sort of message that we get probably from parents and graduate school and everywhere else is we get that message of, oh no, you can't do that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But truth of the matter is we can. Yeah.
You are, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wanting people keeping ourselves in the boxes that other people create for us, I
Yeah.
think is yeah. Yeah.
And I had someone speak into my mastermind and she was talking about, what did she call it? It was like just being beige,
Mhm.
because again,
Yeah.
trying to make sure everyone's okay, right? Like if I'm too bright or if I've got stripes and polka dot, I'm gonna, it's gonna offend someone. It's like, you know what? Go ahead and offend some people. It's okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
having said that, if anyone is on social media, they've probably seen the flip side of that, which is just every other word's the F bomb, it's just
Mhm.
like, look at me,
Yeah.
I'm so different. I'm so controversial. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
it's got to be sincere. If you're, even as I'm like, hey, don't be beige, I'm like, but you know what? If beige is your favorite color, like, be
Mhm.
beige. Like, it doesn't have to be it's leaning into being you and really seeing the value in that and knowing that the more you are, both in your personality, in how you talk, in the specific people you love to serve and being really clear about that, that is going to be like a dog whistle. Like it's like a signal, a radar that goes out where the people who are going to connect with you are going to go, "Er, I hear,
Yeah.
I hear ya," and they're going to be
Yeah.
attracted to you. And it becomes a lot more easeful, right? It's
Mhm.
not, "How do I grab those clients and get them?" It's more like, "No, no, no, I'm leaning into being me. I'm forming more relationships. I'm being vocal about who I am, and it's really attracting, naturally
Right.
attracting
Right.
people."
Right. One thing that occurs to me as you're saying all this, Jane, and this kind of piggybacks on a conversation I just had at lunch today with a friend of mine who's folks that know me know that I'm involved with church stuff and that sort of thing. And I was talking with the church that I'm going to be reassigned to here in Kingsport, and the rector there and I, the rector, the pastor, the priest, make people have that rest. We were talking about my role, my new role in going in that place, and one of the things that to 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 understand is, yes, understand your greatness, understand your gifts, understand what you're good at, but
Mhm.
also pay attention to the stuff that you're not so good at and
Yeah.
allow others to do that. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's
Really
just
being
kind of,
humble about yeah.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
being able to say, okay, this is not my, because I think sometimes in business and in our practices even, we try to be everything for everybody, and
Yeah.
that will just absolutely wear you out, and you will not do as good a job, and that just ties into the whole thing that people hear repeatedly, for those of us that have been around, but for those that maybe haven't been around, the importance of creating a niche for yourself, or a
Absolutely.
niche, however you want to say that.
Yeah, there's the saying, "The riches are in the niches." I'm like, "The research
Yeah.
in the niches."
You're right.
It's not really
Yeah.
niche.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I mean, I think, you can learn new things. Certainly, we've all learned new skills.
Mhm.
When you go into private practice, you're wearing all the hats at first,
Mhm.
right? And then you start to go, "Oh, okay, I can start to invest in other people to wear certain hats that I'm not good at or that I just
Mhm.
don't like." Like it does, if you're
Mhm.
like it. I mean, we all have to write our session notes. There's no getting around it. But other than that, most most unpleasant things can be outsourced or automated, or we can get help with that. But yeah, like really knowing your strength is really it's important. And again, it makes it fun. And
Yeah.
if you're having fun, that's a good sign. It doesn't mean that you're neglecting others. And that the other thing too, I think, kind of back to what you're saying, the flip side is that avoiding shame. If there are things that you're just not great at in your practice, that's okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm terrible at numbers. I one of the best decisions I ever made was to hire a bookkeeper slash accountant to do all of that for me. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, like I had, I hired someone just for a one-time coaching session who was like, "Have you looked at your numbers?" And I was like, "It's been a few years. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
no, like, so you can through doing a lot of things imperfectly and you can do fine."
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, just like
Yeah.
know your strengths. And again, I'm gonna take the thing further of like know your strength and amplify your strength. It does also come down to, continue to work on being good at what you do.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
so much work around how to market, how to do money, how to all of these things that I love to teach. And, I've had acquaintances. I was at a networking thing with other therapists last night. And, there were some people I'd known for a while. This sounds so negative.
Mhm.
They were like, "I've done all the things. I joined this coaching program and I took this course and I made all these slick materials and da 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 da
Mhm.
da. And I can't seem to hang on to a client." And I'm like, "That's because you're not." Yeah, I'm thinking
Mm.
they haven't improved their therapy skills in a long time. And they're
Right.
like, work on your skills, stay
Yeah.
with that. Being a
Right.
really good therapist is a great way to get referrals.
Yeah. Yeah. And do your own work. If you're a therapist, yeah, I mean, just get yourself in therapy. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's to me, that's a no-brainer. And a lot of times we neglect that, I think,
We
as
do.
therapists. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's
So,
essential, essential.
yeah. Yeah.
Now, having said so
Uh-huh.
having said, like, "Hey, just be a good therapist and you'll get clients," I I do believe another big lesson of all of these, this decade of private practice, the 20 years of being a therapist, 23 years, is that getting help works, right? Whether like getting
Mhm.
therapy has made me a better therapist and a better coach. learning, delving into continually learning about topics that come up in therapy, which I love that we get to learn in this profession.
All right.
Learn
Yeah.
for fun, but it's part of work that that's going to make me a better therapist. That makes me a better therapist.
Hmm.
And as a business coach, I still invest in coaching for myself. Business coaching works.
Hmm.
If it's good
Yes.
chat, if it's good coaching, having colleagues, having coaching friends that are in my brain trust and I can bounce things off of, but also investing in coaching. Like coaching can really help because as we see in our therapy clients, when you're so close to it, it's just hard to see it. We
Right.
probably all had
Right.
the experience of counseling someone, counseling 3 clients in a row on the thing that we're dealing with in our lives. And we're great at giving them, helping them through it. And when it comes to us, it's like, I don't know, what do I do?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
So the same thing with,
That's
yeah.
yeah. That's been a whole theme for me.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
think God is trying to tell me something because truly, like, I remember once I had someone I was avoiding having the hard conversation with. I had 3 clients in a row who were like, I know I need to have the hard conversation. I just don't know how.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, God is just like putting them in front of me. Message through. But yeah, I mean, so same thing with business coaching. I know that I don't know what I don't know. And when I'm working with people, a lot of them, they don't know what they don't know. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're not working with me, sometimes I want to like shake them and be like, oh, you're missing the point. You're missing like
Mm-hmm.
it's 1 or 2 things you need to do differently. And if they are working with me, I get to tell them it's so fun. I get to work with them
Yeah.
long term over that. But you
Right.
know, we all need outside help, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. And I think every time, and I would, you know, ditto to everything you said there, and that every time I've been involved in getting coaching or being part of a mastermind group or any of that sort of thing, I have seen exponential growth
Yeah.
with the things that I'm doing. And it's yeah, and it's you're right. It's being able to see things from a different perspective, see things that we might get blinded to in our own businesses, and get and two, I think just having a community helps facilitate courage because you know that you've got other people that ha- are going through either something similar or they've been there before, that sort of thing, and they can,
Yeah.
yeah, support you through it all.
Find out that you're not alone for one thing.
Hmm.
Hey, but then
Right.
you do get courage. There was a study, I don't know, a few years ago where they studied the brains of mountain climbers and they showed that people about to climb a mountain alone, like mountaineers about to, hike up the mountain alone, perceived the mountain to be 10 to 20% steeper than people who were standing with a friend who was going to do the mountaineering with them.
Wow.
Yeah, like the challenge
Yeah.
is so much steeper when you're alone.
Right.
We're just
Right.
so wired for relationship,
Yeah.
and other people do give us courage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know who is on my speed dial / my Voxer app when I need a little courage.
Oh, right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
wonderful.
Well, Jay, that brings us full circle to what we started talking about at the very beginning, and that's the importance of relationships. And I know we've got to be mindful of our time. I know you and I are going to plan to spend at least a full
We're gonna
day
go
or not
mountains
more.
together.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna
We're
climb that
gonna do
mountain. Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, we are. We've already talked about that, but tell folks how they can get in touch with you, and I'll say this: if you haven't done it already, take the time to sign up for Jane's emails list because she's got the most wonderful emails of anybody I know, and it's just I look forward to them every week.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I love to tell stories in my emails, and
Yes.
that's been that was the thing I was trying to learn to write better emails, and I
Yeah.
love those emails. I love writing them, and I love that people love them. So yeah, if people want to sign up for my emails, they can go to my website, janecartercoaching.com, And, there's a little sign up area for the email list. I also have a whole page of free resources, freebies, free
Mm-hmm.
resources. We're coming up on, I'm not sure when this will be released, but we're
Mm-hmm.
halfway through the year almost. An annual Soulful Solopreneur reflection workbook that I sent out in January, but midway through the year is a great time to download that. I'm actually going to be offering a free workshop to go through that as we enter the second half of the year. But I
Right.
have several other freebies, and I would love to meet people and hear about their businesses. This is so
Yeah.
fun. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And the URL is janecartercoaching.com, correct?
yeah, that's the URL.
Okay.
And I'm on Instagram at Jane Carter Coaching. I'm trying to be more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, really going straight to my email list is the best way to be in touch. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. We'll have links in the show notes and show summary. Well, Jane, we'll be talking again here soon. I know we've got
all
plans to
right.
do
That
some
was fun
hiking.
conversations.
Yeah.
Always enjoyed being on this podcast. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you having me. It was really
Well,
fun.
it's my pleasure.
Yay.